talking about one of our patterns that we've had for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. We called it Mosaic. And this was the original pattern we did. And then we did it again maybe 3 years ago with this cute little, kind of little girl print. The basics of it is it's a real nice fast strip piecing project. So you're starting with 5 different prints and then your border fabric and your background sashing fabric. Okay, so this one was that way. This was the same. We had our 5 prints, we had our border fabric, and our background fabric. So I think last week Elaine showed you the Tula Pink Linework fabric that came in. So we decided to recreate this project once again with the Linework. So we picked 5 of the prints. Oh, I got them flipped upside down here. So we got the panda and the skunk and the zebra, the lemur, and then this little hexagon print. And so what you're going to be doing with these prints is, first of all, we're going to talk about directional prints because it kind of tripped us up a little bit. So when you're buying your prints for this, either non-directional, which both of these 2 original ones, there's no direction to any of these prints. It doesn't matter which way you flip them. When I started looking at the Tula Pink one, what I was looking for is I wanted my head to toe to go selvage to selvage, okay? So I could cut that 1/3 of a yard and get all my pieces I needed out of it. And what I found, I looked at like 2 of them and I'm like, yeah, good, we're good to go. And then I was gonna start strip piecing and I realized my zebra was going in the opposite direction, okay? So if I cut my pieces, he would have been going sideways. Now the nice thing about this pattern, and I'll explain in a minute, is you can have one of your colors ends up being a square. So even if one of your prints is directional in the wrong way, you can still have that be the one that you cut up into your square. Okay, so I'm going to explain that, what we did there. So for this one, we also decided to add a little more color into it. So when I take my strip of fabric, and I'm then going to cut a little frame border and sew it onto my sides. And then I'm going to chop it up. So I'm making this little strip set to start. And what we decided to do was add in more colors. So we had 5 prints, and then we added in 5 colors. So it just makes it a little more fun, seeing as her prints are so colorful, and with the black and white, it was just kind of fun to do that. So instead of having all my fabric the same for these borders, we picked 5 different border prints or border colors to go with our main prints. And then what you're going to do, get these out of here, is on 4 of your prints, so I'm going to sew this strip onto the 2 long sides of all 5 of my prints. Again, they're either all one color or you're going to have 2 the same color on each strip. And then for 4 of them, I want to cut them into 3 different pieces. And,
Sorry.
okay. So what I need from each print, I'm going to need a 7-inch piece, a 14-inch piece, and a 21-inch piece. You can see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to take my strip. Flip this real quick. And the reason I decided on those amounts, 7, 14, 21, was because when you added up, it was a total of 42 inches. which most fabrics you have at least 42 inches of workable fabric to work with. So you can see like on this here purple one, these are two different companies. So my purple one was a little bit shorter than what the Tula Pink fabric was. Okay, so you got to be careful that you always have enough fabric to cut these pieces up. So I'm going to cut a 7. And I'm going to cut a 14, which is going to be at my 21 line. And then my last piece I'm going to cut at 21. And we're not shaking dice either. So I had a little bit left over. If you have a piece that, you know, you could cut them slightly bigger, a ½ inch bigger if you wanted to, I guess. The biggest thing is that you cut them all exactly the same size. But I just found that 7, 14, 21, you can do it with pretty much any fabric that you're working with. So once I have my 3 pieces cut, then I'm going to take another strip and I'm going to sash out the top and the bottom and just frame out each little block. Okay, so again, it's fast and easy strip piecing and rotary cutting. You get a big quilt really fast because you're working with nice big pieces. Okay, so I'm just going to sash out the top and bottom on all of my blocks. Obviously, the ones that have the green fabric, I'm going to sash in green. If they have the pink, I sash them in pink. Okay, so once I get all my blocks done, I'm ready to assemble. However, one more thing. The one that I said, you can have one that even if your fabric runs in the wrong direction, because from one of your fabrics, you're going to cut a square. So for this one, even though when I added my sides, my little zebra was going sideways, for this one, you're going to cut 4 10.5-inch squares from that strip. So when I add my other 2 sides onto it, it gives me a square. So I can turn him in any direction. So it gives you that ability to have one of them that's not going in the right direction. My original thought was to have this be the one that I cut into my square. But when I found I had my zebras were wrong, I switched it over to that one. So then when you go to your layout, I'm going to go over to this one just so you can see it a little better. So you're going to be building your quilt in columns. Okay, so every column is going to have one of your 10.5-inch squares. There's one down at the bottom. So I have 4 columns and I had 4 squares. Then the other 3 pieces, my 7, 14, 21, I'm going to add one size to every column. So every column has to have a 7-inch piece, a 14-inch piece, and a 21-inch piece, along with your 10.5. So you have to have one of each piece in every row or your rows won't come out to be the same size. Okay, so again, here's my 7, my 10.5, my 14, my 21. And you're just going to kind of swap around your colors. With the Tula Pink fabric, we would also have a variety of different colored borders. Just going to brighten it up a little bit. Okay? And then once you've decided which 4 pieces are going to be in your row, you need to sew them together with your background sashing strips. So again, you're going to have every column's going to have one of these. And I need a 7-inch piece, which on this row would have been down here. I need a 14-inch piece. And I need a 21-inch piece.
Just mention your column is going this way, down here.
Yeah, this one's turned sideways on the table just so I could get a little more length. It would actually be going this way, okay? And then I'm going to piece it in between with my sashing. So I'd have my, I believe it's a 4-inch sashing strip in between. Okay? And then I'm going to build all 4 of my columns. And then I'm going to put them together with another background row. So you just have a column and a background, a column and a background, column, background, column. Okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about this background fabric. Just kind of picking and choosing what look you want. You know, again, you could have done something very simple and just done a white on white and it would have looked cute with this. I brought down some other bolts that we're going to just kind of play around with the different looks. And sometimes when you're at the quilt shop and you have to pick that large amount of fabric for your background, sometimes it's easier to go home and make some of the blocks and then come back to the quilt shop so you can lay them down to really get the perspective of how that background is going to look with the contrast or the color that you're trying to acquire. So if I want to keep it light, I found this fabric, which was still white, but it had these little stars on it, which also added to the colors that were in my quilt. So again, okay, so it would give you that little pop of color just around it, but yet keep it a little bit brighter, a little whiter. Now for those of you that love Tula Pink, love the craziness of her designs or the cave type fabrics where you just take a lot of print and mush it all together, I grabbed this one, which is from her line. So this great big fat polka dot. Again, this Linework is a black and white, so I feel that a black and white print would work nicely with it. And it would be big and bold and in your face. For some people, they're going to go, oh no, no, not me. And other people will be like, I love that. Because you would have this nice big piece of polka dots here and a nice wide strip of polka dots side to side. Okay? If you want to get more color in your background, you don't want to stay with the black and white. This was the one color I did not use for the borders around my blocks. Again, this would be a lot of yellow, which I probably personally wouldn't do. But if I wanted to add a bright color, what I probably would have done is pick this to be one of my border fabrics, and then picked, you know, maybe the blue or the purple. Oh, we'll just toss one up there. He doesn't have his top and bottom on him yet. As my background. Again, you know who you're making it for. I'm planning on maybe using this for my binding, just because the yellow is in these fabrics quite a bit, but I just wanted to use a small touch of it. So this would be pretty wild for your background, but some people might love it. Okay. What we decided to use, again, we kind of like the black, so we went with this, a black with a white speckle in it. Okay. And so again, we're going to be sewing those pieces together with this black in between. And then I think it'll really make all those bright colors really pop. And then of course, once we get all of our columns made, we're going to use that same black to do our long vertical sashings. One thing, and for this project we needed 2 yards for our sashing, and these long pieces, these columns are about 70 inches long. So if I'm able to, instead of cutting this fabric into all of these strips and then having to piece them together, because I'm starting with a 72-inch piece and my column is roughly 70 inches, I could start by cutting these long strips. So I think I needed 7 of them. You know, 5 of them across this way and then 1 for the top and bottom. So I could cut those 7 long strips out of this entire length and then use this portion that would be left over to cut up all my little ones. So that way I don't have any seams in my long sashing pieces, which is really nice. You know, if sometimes even if the pattern calls for 1 3/4 yards, if you just buy that extra 1/4 yard to get that length, you don't have to do all of that piecing and seaming and working with those bias stretches that can sometimes wreak a little bit of havoc when you're trying to sew things together. So again, it's a real quick, easy, fun project. Makes a big quilt really fast. Working with 5 prints, either 1 border fabric or 5 different border fabrics in your background. The other thing, for any of you that are asked to do memory quilts occasionally, it's a nice pattern for that because you get some really big pieces, you get some small pieces, you get some medium-sized pieces. You could even make your borders a little bit bigger if you needed to make them fit together better, but it's one of those patterns where you can easily modify it for memory quilt purposes.
Baby quilt size?
And we also have, the pattern also includes a size for baby quilts. You cut your pieces a little bit smaller and we do not add the border on. So it's just your background and your pieces, your 5 different fabrics. So it just, again, it's quick, it's easy, and it makes about a 45 by 55, a smaller version of the quilt. All right, I think that is all we have for today. We hope that all of you had a great Thanksgiving last week, and we will maybe see you for our sale. We also, for those of you who are local and have your little rewards box, that's going to be cashing those in will be next week, starting on Tuesday through Saturday.
Next Wednesday night?
And next Wednesday night, Elaine will be doing
Live window shopping.
Live window shopping. So kind of our once a month shopping event that we do in the evening. So that will be next week, Wednesday. We are looking forward to seeing you in the shop soon, and take care. Bye.